Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is YAHMAD. In this video, we're going to continue on with paper 2 from the CIE ICT IGCSE course. So in the previous video, I completed a word section. So this is a February-March 2019 paper. Paper 2 is a practical paper which is 2 hours and 30 minutes long. We're now going to be looking at the database section on page 5. So let's go down. So task 3, databases. You're now going to prepare some reports for the company. Make sure that currency values display a currency symbol and are to 2 decimal places. Dates must be imported as day, month and year. Okay. Examine the data in the files M219 students, M219 rooms and M219 courses. So these are CSV files which will probably be imported into Access later. So Access is a database application that we're going to be using. So you don't have to open up these files, but you can do just to get an idea of the data that you're going to be using. So let's go to the source folder. Let's open up courses. Rooms was one. And students. So these will be tables that we will be importing into the database application. So you can see the top row is the field names. So each record is for a student. So this one will be a Boolean field, as you can see is shown as 0 and -1. Okay, you probably got a course code here which will link to another table. So let's go to the other table. Go to course. So as you can see, we've got the course reference, so they may link together. Again, we got field names along the top, and then here for each record we got different courses, and then finally the rooms, and this looks like information on student accommodation. So this is where people will be staying, and this is a weekly cost here. Okay, so before we import anything, we need to close down these fields or these CSV files. We don't want to save any changes. We can just close them down. Okay, done. So we've had a look at the CSV files. Question 18. Discuss in your own words the advantages and disadvantages of using a relationship or relational database rather than a flat file database to store the data from these 3 files. So if you had a flat file database, basically what you'd have is all of this information in 3 tables in one table only. So you basically would have data that would be repeated. So what we're going to have in this example will be 3 tables which we can link together using primary keys and foreign keys. I want to show you this example before we move forward and I answer the question. So this is from one of the previous exam papers. So we have 2 tables here. In one table we have records of employees, okay, and which office to work at. So each office has an ID. So this one is AHM, which links to this office here. So we have 2 tables here. If we had a flat file database, basically all of this information here you see in this row would be repeated for every record where you had AHM. So if you have repeated data, what would happen is the file size of the database would be much bigger since you got more data. There may be more chance of you making a mistake since you're entering the same data again and again and again. So these 2 tables have been linked for the primary keys. So in this table here, the office ID is a primary key, which has been linked to the office ID field here. Okay, so if I click on a plus here, you can see these employees work at this office here. These employees work at the Bangalore office here. So what do we need to write in the evidence document? So we basically need to discuss the advantage of having a relationship database and a disadvantage of having a relationship database. So to save a bit of time, I've already actually answered this question in the evidence document. So let's have a look at what I've typed in. So I've basically taken these answers from the mark scheme anyway. So data would be repeated in a flat file database, would only be entered or edited or deleted once in a relational database. So for example, the details for the office in a relationship database would only have to be entered once, If it was flat file, you have to repeat that same data again and again and again. You can create reports with data from all tables involved. So in this example here, we've got 2 tables, so we can include fields and create reports based on the information from both tables. In the question that we're going to do today, we have 3 tables and we can create reports using fields from all 3 tables. Okay. Data is stored once, so it cuts down inconsistency of repeated data entries. So because we're only entering the data once, there's less chance of making mistakes. If you were entering the data again and again and again for each record, there's more chances of you making a mistake. So less storage space required for data files. Okay, since we're not going to be repeating this row of information for every record where it says AHM, we're going to basically have less space, or the database won't be as big. However, the disadvantage of having a relationship database is it would be more complicated to set up, as you have to identify the primary keys and the foreign keys, and then you have to create the relationship as well. Okay, so this question has 4 marks. So if you wanted to, you can think of 3 advantages and maybe 1 disadvantage. So try and come up with 4 different points at least. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So don't really write more than 4, to be honest. What would happen is, let's say for example the first one was incorrect and the next 4 were right, you may still lose a mark because there's an incorrect answer in your answer. Right, I hope that makes sense. So we've done that now, we can move forward. Okay, question 19. We need to create a new relational database. So I'm going to go to my source folder, right click my mouse and create a new Microsoft Access database. I'm going to call it 2019. It doesn't really matter what you call it. Let's open it up. Okay, and we can close down this other one. So let's click on enable content. We don't need to have this old, actually I still need this one. We'll come back to that one later. Right. Okay, so now we need to import the file m219students.csv as a table, and we need to use these field names and data types shown below here. Okay, so the paid field will be a Boolean field displayed as yes or no. So that's something we need to consider when we're importing a CSV file, and every other data types will be text. Okay, so I'm using Office 365. To import a CSV file, I'm going to click on external data. I'm going to then click on new data source, from file, and then click on text file. If you're using the previous version of Access, it's similar. You click on external data and then you need to click on the option which gives you text file. The next thing to do is to browse and select the CSV file. So we go to my source folder and then select the students.csv CSV file. Okay. Next. Now when you get to here, you need to click on first row contains field names, and then each row is basically a record for each student. Then we can click on advance. Okay. I know there's no dates in this particular table, but we need to make sure all dates are shown as day, month and year. So make sure this is set as day, month and year. Okay. Then all of the fields apart from paid should be shown as text, so we can leave this as short text, that's fine. The last field, paid, is going to be Boolean, so we're going to change that now. So if we go to data type, let's click on yes or no and click OK. Next, next, and let's see if we can set a primary key. So this will be the field which has unique data for each record. So the roll number will be set as a primary key. So basically each student will have a different roll number. So I want to choose my own primary key and I want to select the roll number. Yep. Next, finish, close. We can open up the table, and then what we need to do is to make sure the paid field is displayed as yes or no. Okay, so if we go to home, design view, we click on paid, and then the format we change to yes, no. So that's perfect so far. Save the table. So I'll click the disk at the top left, and then evidence 5, just highlight this as done. Place in your evidence document screenshots of the field names and data types used in this table. Okay, so what we need to do is go to design view and then basically take a screenshot of this. Okay, so let me print screen again. I've said in previous videos, if you want to use snipping tool, it's up to you. I just prefer to use this method now, since it's what I've been using for a long time. So let me paste in, crop. I'm also going to include a format which shows the data will be displayed as yes or no. Make sure the print screen is clear. You can see the field names, you can see the data types. Paid should be displayed as yes or no, and the format should be yes or no as well. Save the changes, and that's that done. Okay, let's now move on to question 20. The gender field data entry is to be limited to accept only M or F. So it's basically this field here. So M or F is the only pieces of data that should be accepted. So for example, if I type in B and press enter, you can see B has been accepted, which is obviously a mistake. What we want to do is to make it so only M or F is to be accepted. So we need to use a validation rule. So what is this question asking us? So we have a table in the evidence document which needs to be completed with the words yes or no to identify which of the examples would limit the data entry and which would not. Okay? If the examples does not limit the data entry, you need to explain why. So this is why I had the other database, because I want to show you some examples on the other database of what would work and what wouldn't work. So in the first example, example A, you can see there's no validation rule. We can see the format is M or F. However, this will not restrict you from typing in anything else. So you can type in B or any other characters. Since there's no validation rule, this is not going to work. Okay? Why would you use the format option? So let me show you. So let's say, for example, you got the date and time. The format option would allow you to show the date in a particular format. So medium date, long date, short date. If there was a number, for example, you can show the number in a different format, showing a currency, different types of currency, including commas, percentage, and so forth. If it was text, for example, for the format, you don't have anything for the drop-down menu, but you can do things like including these sorts of brackets. So this will make it capital letters, anything in that particular field, or a less than would make it lowercase. Okay, so the formatting option basically allows you to format a field, but it doesn't allow you to restrict data that will be entered into a particular field. So that's the first option. So I've already completed a table in my in the evidence documents. So example A, the answer is no. It's formatting the data rather than validating the data. So that's why it's not going to work. Okay, example B, we got the answer is yes. So let's see why it's going to work. So this is example B. Okay, the first thing you'll notice is the field size has been set to 1. So we only want to be able to enter one character, M or F. Then this is a validation rule. Only M or F can be entered. If you enter anything else, you'll get this error message. Okay, so if I go to here, for example, go to gender. So you can see I've done it here. So we've got 1 as a field size. We can't enter any more characters. That's the validation rule, M or F, and that's the error message that you'll get. You can only enter M or F. So let me show you this in action. So this is for the gender field. Okay, so if we come to here, if I type in M, it's going to work. If I type in F, it's going to work. If I type in any other character, B for example, you get the error message. You can't do anything else. I can't go forward until I type in M or F. Let's see what happens if I type in 2 characters. I'm pressing my keyboard, but it's not allowing me to type in any other characters. So this option B this is how you'd validate the data. So that's example B will work. Now example C, what we're basically doing is looking up a combo box. There's going to be like a drop down menu, and I've got an example here to show you. I think I've done it on, let me see which field. I think I've done it in test. Yeah, look up. So I've selected a combo box from this option here. Okay, that's what I did first of all. And then for the row source, I put M in speech marks, comma, and F in speech marks. Okay, but you'll notice here, limit to list has been selected as no. So if I go to test, let me show you what happens. So if I go to test, click on the drop down menu, I can select M, I can select F, but because I haven't limited to the list, I can also enter any other values as well and move on. So what I want to do is, let's change that back to M. This is the reason this option won't, example C is not going to work because it's not been limited to list. If I did limit it to a list, yep, we're just limited to these two options here, M or F, this will now work. So if I did try typing in anything else, it's basically saying the text you entered isn't an item in a list. You obviously can't select that option, so I have to select either M or F. So example C is not going to work because it's not limited to the list. Okay, example D is basically, this is not validation, this is basically you filtering the data. So for example, let's say if I go to here, I want to filter all of the misters. So if I click here, that's just filtering the data. It's got nothing to do with entering new data. So let's clear the filter. So what I've typed in here, so a filter on existing data, and it's not going to validate any new data. So it's not going to stop me from entering anything else into that particular field. So the correct answer was B, because you got the validation rule. Okay, so only M or F can be entered. You also got the error message. The field size has been set to 1. Example C would have worked had you have limited the list to yes. So we're only limiting the options to M or F. Okay. So for evidence 6, there's 4 marks available. 1 mark for each answer for example A, example B, example C, and example D. So to save myself a bit of time, I've already completed the table. So I'll show you again. So example A was formatting rather than validating the data. Example B was working, as explained. Example C would have worked, however the list was not limited. And then D is just using the filter. Right, let me just move evidence 7 down to the next page. Let's save the data, the evidence document, and let's move forward. Okay, question 21. We need to import the file m219courses.csv as a new table into your database. We need to use these field names and data types as shown below. So let's highlight. So again, what we're going to do, actually let me shut down this database now, I don't need to use it. Okay, so we can close down this first table. Same method to import, we're going to click on external data, new data source. Again, if you're using the previous version of Access, again it's the same principle. You click on external data, you click on a text file here, from file, text file, browse and select the CSV file. So let me double check, it's going to be courses, so this one here. Press OK, next. When we get to here, we identified earlier the first row will be field names, and then each record will be a different course. Okay, and then what we can do is click on advance, and we have a date field now. So the start date, remember the date field needs to be shown as day, month and year. So I'm just referring back to here, so day, month and year. Typically if your computer is set to United Kingdom settings, that should be set as a default. Okay, it's a day, month and year, so you shouldn't have to change it, but it's always worth checking. Right, so what's the data types? The first 3 fields will be text, so short text, that's fine. Start date is date and time. Weeks is a numeric integer data, so we can keep that as it is. And tutor is going to be text as well. So we don't need to change anything here, but it's just worth checking to see if your data, month and year is in the right order. Let's click on next. And let's set the course ref as the primary key. So each course will have a reference number which will be unique to each course. So let's choose my own primary key. Select the fields. Okay. Right, so that's it. Next. Finish. So let's open up courses. And what we need to do is to change the format of the date. Okay, so we need to be shown a date in this particular format here, showing the month in full. So if I go to Home, Design View, click on Start Date, Date and Time, Format, and we want to show the month in full. So I think it's going to be the long date. Let's go to View, and you get hashtags because the information is not fitting within a column, so you can just increase the column size. Let me double check. Yeah, that's what we wanted. So we've got 4 characters for the year, the month shown in full. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Save the table, and then for the evidence document, we basically need to show screenshots of the field names and data types used in this table here. Okay, so it's really important we set the date and time in the correct format. Save the table, go back to Design View. Let's take a print screen. So this was evidence 7. So we're halfway through completing the evidence document now. So let's crop this part off. And again, you want to make sure your print screens are nice and clear, so you're making it as easy as possible for the examiner to give you the marks. Okay, so that's that one done. Okay. Question 22. Let me just highlight that. Create a data entry form using all of the fields in a student's table. Okay, the form must display only one record at a time. So we're going to create a data entry form now. So save that, close that down. So I use the wizard. So we're going to use the form wizard. We want to select the student table, and then we want to select all of the fields, okay, to be displayed in the data entry form. You click on next, next, and then we can have a suitable title which will appear at the top of the form. So student data, let me just type it normally, entry form. Finish. So as you can see, there's no formatting being applied to this form, so we can scroll through and you can see records of each of the different students here. Okay, so let's see what we need to do next. Okay, so the form does display one record at a time. Question 23, we need to apply at least 4 features to this form to make this more user-friendly. Okay, so 4 things that we need to do to make it more user-friendly. So these are things like adding navigation buttons, adding drop-down menus perhaps, adding radio buttons, inserting instructions, resizing the field lengths, having an appropriate title. So we just need 4 things. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go to Design View. Let's get rid of this. Okay, and I'm going to resize the field lengths. Okay, you can also add colors as well, I suppose. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a few more things just to show you the different things that you can add. So we resize the field. Okay, so now I'm going to add a drop-down menu for gender. So if I go back to the normal view, you can see for the gender it's either going to be F for female or M for male. So rather than having to type in the letter, we're going to have a drop-down menu. So if I go back to Design View, I'm going to actually select this field, delete it. Then if I go up to Design, I'm going to select this option here for the combo box. And then once you've done that, you basically draw a box for your drop-down menu. And then select, I will type in the values I want. Okay, so the values you want will be M for male and F for female. Let's click on next. And then you want to store the values in the gender field. Okay, next. So that basically means this field here will now be linked to the gender field. So let's go to next. And now we need to type in the name of the actual field, which is gender. Finish. Okay, so if you go to form view, now we have a drop down menu. Okay, so M or F. So let me change that back to M. I think that was Luke Kirby. I think he was a male, isn't he? Right, let's go to design view, and then we can just arrange this heading. So if I click on the top left square, I can move the name of the field. Okay, and then we can just move this as well. So, and this field doesn't have to be as long. Okay, now for paid, I'm going to include some radio buttons. So you don't need to do all of these things, but I'm just showing you different things that you can do. So for paid, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select the field. What we want to show is either a no or a yes. Okay, so the first record is no. And it's going to be a button that we select rather than typing in a no or a yes. So let's delete this. And we're going to select this option here. So option group. Again, we're going to draw the box. Okay, so the label names will be yes or no. Let's click on next. The default choice can be yes. Okay, so that's what's going to appear every time you go to a new record. That's fine. Okay, the values will be shown. For yes, it's going to be -1. Okay, and then for no, it's going to be 0. So do you remember when we looked at the CSV file at the start, for the Boolean field we saw numbers 0 represented no and -1 represented yes. So for that reason we need to enter those numbers here. Click on next. And then we want to store the value of this field into paid. Next. And then you can choose what sorts of boxes you want. You want boxes like this or option boxes. It's up to you. So let's click on next. And then what do we want to call this option group? We can call it paid. Finish. Okay, so if I just click on the top corner. And then if I go to form view, we can see we've got two things now. We've got a drop down menu and we have an option box now. So rather than typing out yes or no, we can click on the options. So yes or no. As you can see, if we scroll through the different records, this information will change. Okay, so actually we've done three things. We've resized the fields, we've got a drop down menu, and we've got radio buttons. Another thing which you can do, if you press Control now on these field names, go to Home, we can make these field names bold, maybe resize them, change the color, and maybe change the color of the actual boxes, for example. Okay, so at least they stand out a little bit better. Another thing which we can do is to add navigation buttons. Now this is a typical thing that you can do, so let's just add some buttons to go backwards and forwards. So if you click on this icon, draw a box, we can click on record operations, actually no, record navigation, and we can select the option to go to the first record. So look at this icon here. So it's sometimes best to show the picture rather than text. So I want to show this icon, which means we're going to go to the first record. I'm going to keep adding some buttons. Now I want to go to the last record, and again I want the icon rather than the text. Next, finish. And then I want buttons which will take me backwards and forwards. Go to the next record and go to the previous record. You can see that. Okay, and then you can rearrange the buttons. And let me add a couple more buttons. This time I'm going to include some text. So we want, if you click on record operations, maybe a button to add a new record. And this time, rather than showing an icon, I'm going to click on the text. Finish. and maybe a button that's going to close the form. So if you go to form operations, close form, and you don't need to do all of these things. I'm just showing you the different things you can do to improve the form design. And then finally, I'm going to have some instructions. So I want to insert a label. So please enter your details into the form. Okay, so if you go to form view, we've done plenty of things here. So we've got a drop down menu, we've got radio buttons, we've resized the field names, we've highlighted and formatted the text, we've got navigation buttons which go forwards one at a time or backwards. If you want to go to the first record, you click here, the last record you click there, and this button here will close the form. But we're going to wait for now. So we've done that now. So apply at least 4 features to this form to make the design user friendly. I've obviously done more than 4, but it doesn't really matter for now. Use your data entry form to enter this data as a new record. So since I've got a button to add a record, I'm going to click on it. It's going to take me to 298, and then I'm going to basically enter this information. So obviously you would have to type it in. I can copy and paste. Okay, he is male, and the code and the course code, and the paid is yes, which has already been selected. Okay. Next thing we need to do for evidence 8 is to take a screenshot evidence of the form with the new record displayed and place this into your evidence document. Below the screenshot, list the features you've applied to the form to make it user friendly. So let me just highlight all of this. That's complete. Okay. So the 4 marks that you're going to get will be shown in this print screen and whatever you type underneath. So let me take a print screen now. So this was evidence 8. Let's go to our evidence document. I'm going to move this onto the next page, so I've got plenty of space for my print screen and my annotation. So I'm going to crop off the parts which are not relevant. To make this as big as possible, and then let's write down the things that we've done to improve the user friendliness of this form. Okay, so first thing is drop down menu for the gender field, combo box for the paid field, navigation buttons to browse through records, instructions to complete the form, which is this information here, and then you can also write text has been formatted and fields have been appropriately resized. So you can see this field, since we're only going to have 1 character, is smaller than the other fields here. So just to save myself a bit of time, I'm going to skip that, but obviously you can include that as well if you wanted to. So you're not expected to remember how to create drop-down menus and combo boxes, but if you can, then at least do one or the other. And obviously navigation buttons is quite easy to do as well. Okay, so that's that part done. Now we're going to import another CSV file into the database. So it's going to be M219 rooms as a new table into your database. So let's just save that and then close the form. Okay, let's go to external data, new data source, from file, text file. And I'm just checking the data type. So the first 3 fields will be text, and the weekly cost should be currency numeric. Okay, so it's going to be the rooms that we're going to be importing. So browse, select the correct CSV file, so rooms. Okay, next. Top row again is going to be field names. Let's go to advanced. We don't have any dates now, but it doesn't really matter, but it's still date, month and year. So we've got short text, short text, short text. Okay, and the weekly cost should be currency numeric. That's fine. We can change double, basically represents decimal numbers, so I'm going to change that later on. I'm going to leave that as it is for now. Let's go to next, next, and we're going to make this field the primary key. So choose my own, this code field here, so next, and then we're going to click on finish. Okay, so we've got the rooms now, so let's double click to open up. You can see some numbers have decimal numbers. So sometimes the mistake people could do is when they're importing, they change this field into an integer, and if you change it into an integer, then you lose the values after the decimal point. Now what we can do is go to design view, go to weekly cost, leave the field size as double, but the format we can change to currency, and we can choose any currency we want, just as long as we display 2 decimal places. Just let me double check. So sometimes some exam papers are specific in which currency they want you to show. In this example here, we just need to make sure currency is displayed to 2 decimal places. Okay, so where are we? Go back, and that's that done now. So we set the primary key, let's save the table, and then evidence 9, place in your evidence document screenshots of the field names and data types used in the table. So let's go to here, let's take a print screen, and again take off what you don't need and resize it so it's really clear and easy for the examiner to see what they're marking. If you do print off your evidence document and you realize you can't even see some of these things yourselves, like the data types, then obviously you'd have to go back and resize your print screen. So that's nice and clear. You can see the format down here as well. Okay, so let's just put some space there. The evidence document as well, you know, it doesn't really matter if it comes over 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. The main thing is the print screens are clear. Right, that's that done. Now it's time to make the relationships. Okay, so let me save the changes here. I think I've done so already. So to make the relationships, you need to make sure the tables are not open. Okay, so if your tables are open, relationships will not work. So let's close down this. Let's click on database tools. Let's click on relationships, and you want to add all 3 tables. So you can see we've got the primary keys that we selected whilst we imported the CSV files. So you can resize the tables to show all the fields. Okay, so create a one-to-many relationship between the tables using the primary key ACC code. Okay, so where's the primary key? So this is primary key ACC code to the foreign key ACC code. So obviously we start by selecting the primary key and go to the foreign key. So the information in both these fields should be the same. It's a one-to-many relationship. Let's click on create. And then the primary key course ref to course code, which will be this table here. Again, it's a one-to-many relationship. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to move this in the middle like this, so it just makes it it's more easier to see the relationship. So from this primary key, we're linking to this foreign key. From this primary key, we're linking to this foreign key. So the data in both fields should be the same. Oops, why we click there? Okay, and then evidence 10, place in the evidence document screenshots of the relationship showing their types. So let me first of all print screen this. So this is evidence 10. And I'm also going to include 2 more print screens. If I go back to Access, if I double click on this line here, I want to show this box here. So this is a course ref, the course code is a one-to-many relationship. Okay, and then let's go to next page. And let's take a print screen of this. So some people might not take these print screens, but you know, it's not going to eat into your time really, to be honest. And in the recent papers, if you look at the mark schemes, they're looking for this box as well. For some examiners, let me just, that's big enough, let's make that a bit bigger as well. For some examiners, this single print screen will be enough. You can see the parameter keys and you can see the relationships as well. Let's press save. I've got those boxes there. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, so that's that done. Okay, just before we look at question 27, I want to check to see if the relationships are working. So if I close this down, open up the tables. So these are the different courses. If I click on the plus, these are the different students which are enrolled onto the different courses. So that's working there. So you got one course with many students. And these are the different rooms where many students are going to be living. So that's fine. Yep, so you can see the one-to-many relationship. All right, question 27 is, let me just go up a little bit. Produce a tabular report using fields from the relevant tables. Okay, and then we've got a list of bullet points here. So you can see I've annotated this question. So Q stands for query and R stands for report. So this question is split into 2 sections. Before we can make the report, we first of all need to make the query. And the first thing I always do is go to Query Wizard and select the fields. Enter the title for the report as the query name as well, and then typically in a query you filter the data by entering specific search criteria. In the other example, we're going to be doing a calculated runtime field as well, but we'll come to that later on. So we're going to be following the same steps in this question and also in this question as well. So you'll see the steps are very similar. So to create a report, a query, we go to Create, Query Wizard, click on OK, and now we need to select the fields. So we need to link to the relevant tables. So we want roll number, first name, last name. Actually, let's zoom in. So we need to go to this table here, students, roll number, first and last name. Whoops, I'll send that one back. First name, last name, gender and course code. Course location, start date, so that must be in courses. Course, yeah, so we want location, start date, and the tutor. So just before we move on, let me double check. Roll number, first name, last name. Roll number, first name, last name. Gender, course code. Gender, course code. And then it should be location, start date, and tutor. Yep, got them in the right order. Next. And I always include a title for the report at this point here as well. So the title for the report will be this. So include a report title. So make sure you spell it right, make sure you include relevant capital letters as well. So if you did include a capital C and capital D, you'd end up losing marks because it's not 100% accurate. Finish. Before we move on, you got the fields along the top. we've got 298 records. Okay, so we've done the first part, that's done now. We've done this part as well. Okay, so I'm not going to highlight it for now. Actually, I'll highlight just the first part for now, okay, because I might need to use this title again later. So now we need to filter the data, so select only the courses where the course code starts with letter A. So the course code is in this field here, so we only want to show the course code starting with letter A. So what we need to do is go to Design View, go to Course Code, and if I type in A and then star, this will basically find anything that begins with A. Okay, so if we click on Run, you can see the course code all starts with A, and we have 36 records. So we've done this now, that's finished as well. So now we've finished the query, we selected the fields, we've got a title, and we've filtered the data using the search criteria shown here. Now it's time to save and make a report based on this query. So now we go to Create, Report Wizard, based on this query with this title here shown, select all of the fields, next. Yep, so it's going to be no grouping, next. So now in the report we need to sort the data, so sort the data into ascending order of course code. So course code will be ascending, yeah, and then ascending order of last name. So when you do this, it's going to mess up the order of the fields. Remember, you need to put them back in the right order. Click on Next. So we've done that one. The page will be landscape, so we can select landscape. It's going to be a tabular layout, which was shown at the top, so you don't need to change anything there, so you can say that's done as well. Next, and I need to enter the title again. Sometimes it stays actually, but then sometimes you have to do it again. So if I go back to my question paper, that's why I didn't highlight this. Let's copy this. Make sure you enter the title exactly as it appears on your question paper, and then finish. Okay, so you can see we've got some hashtags because the data's not fitting. The fields are not in the right order because we've got a sort now on the particular fields. So if I close this and then go to Layout View, the first thing I'm going to do is press Control and then Control again to select the field name and the actual records. Move these across like this. Again, I'm going to move these across like this because I want to put the fields back in the right order. So the first field that we should show is roll number, which is this field here. So if I press Control on my keyboard, select Control again, we can move this across. Let me go down, see if all the data is showing. Yeah, and then we want the first name, so we can move that across there. I think Mohammed is the longest name. Yeah, but we don't want to cut off any data. I'm going to move the course code just to here for now. Then we got the last name, so you want to make sure the field name is shown in full as well as the name as well. You don't want to cut off any data. Yep. Woodward is the longest name and is shown in full. Then after the last name is gender and then course code. So this is gender here. And then course code. So remember, I'm pressing Control to select the field name as well as the data below. Must be overlapping, so let me just move this across. Okay, that's fine with me, and I'm just going to move this across slightly. Yeah. And then after the course code, course location, start date and tutor. So I think the rest of the information, the fields are in the right order, so we just move them across. So Aman, yeah, showing start date. The reason you get hashtags is because the data is not shown in full, so now the data is shown, and then the tutor. So okay, cool. Happy that all of the data is shown. You can go to the print preview as well. So if you go to print preview to check. Sometimes it's best to zoom out to see all of the data. Nothing's cut off yet. We've got roll number, first name, last name, gender, course code, location, start date, and then the tutor. So nothing's been cut off. Okay, and all of the information fits on one page wide. So we can highlight this now as complete. Displays data and labels in full. Okay, so that's that done as well. Obviously, if I go back to layout view, for example, if I did something like this, data's not shown in full. I'm just pressing Ctrl Z. The labels also, if I did something like this, it's not shown in full. So you need to make sure the data is fully visible. Now what's left to do is calculate the number of delegates on these courses and position this number under the last name column. So basically each record, I'm just going to make that smaller so it's not overlapping. Each record must be a delegate. As you can see, Woodward is slightly cut off. So what I'm going to do actually, I'm going to move this gender across slightly. Just don't want to make sure anything's overlapping. So each delegate, each record, we basically need to count it up. Okay, so and then we need to position it under the last name column. So since we need to position it underneath this column, we're going to count these delegates here. So if I click on this field, then I go to tools, click on count records, it's going to basically display a number underneath. So 36 was the same number we had in our query as well. So that's that done. Has a label total delegates to the left of this value, so let me copy that label. If I go to design view, design, we can click on this icon here to add a label to the left. So if I draw a box, again make sure you enter this exactly as it appears, so capital T lowercase d, make sure you spell it right, because if you don't you could lose marks. So if you go to print preview, you can see this labels to the left of this. Doesn't really matter about this space as long as it's to the left. Okay, click on close. Normal view is there as well. Okay, so that's that done. And then has your name, center number and candidate number displayed on each page of the report. Okay, so what we need to do, if you go to design view, you got report header. So this puts your name on the first page. So if you printed 2 pages, for example, it would only appear on your first page. If you put something in the report footer, it would only appear on the last page. But since we want information to appear on each page, we're going to place it either in a page header or page footer. I prefer using a page header. So I'm going to draw me a label. I'm going to write my name first of all. For center number, I'm going to use 5678, so we're consistent with the Word document. So let me enter 5678, 5678, and then for candidate number I'll use 1234. Okay, so if you go to print preview again, you can see your details appear on this page, and then if you go to the second page, again the details appear on this page here. You've got the count here. I'm just going to move this count slightly to the left so it's below the last name, because I don't want them to be the examiner not to give me the marks, because it's not underneath the last name. Okay, let me just move this across slightly. Let's just check now. Second page. Yeah, that looks a bit better, doesn't it? Okay, so that's that first report done. So we can now go ahead and print this report. Okay, so make sure you do the print preview. If you receive the report and it's not as you expected, the fields are not in the right order, the data's not showing, then please go ahead and print, make them relevant corrections. Okay, so that's the first part done. So remember, we do the query first, select the fields, enter the title for the query. So I know this query is basically for this report. Enter your search criteria and then start the report wizard. After you've done the report wizard, make sure you put the fields back in the right order, because the sort will change the order. Okay, so as you can see, we sorted by the course code, okay, and then by the last name as well. So let's save here. Let's close this down. So that's good to go. So we can print that one off. Yeah, so make sure you've entered your name, center number, candidate number. For the evidence, 11, place in your evidence document a screenshot showing a formula used to calculate the number of delegates. So if we go back to the report, go to design view, we just need to print screen this at the bottom. Is it evidence 11? Yes, it is. And then obviously resize it so it's really visible for the examiner to see and for him to mark. Okay, so that's that done. Save the changes and then turn that off. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to question 28. Produce again a tabular report using fields from the relevant tables. We have a number of bullet points. You can see I've already annotated the question again. Q stands for query, R stands for report. Before we can make the report, we need to make the query. So again, the same principles. I'm going to select the fields in the order shown. Then I'm going to name the query the same title is going to appear at the top of the report. Then the next two things, it doesn't really matter what order you do it in as long as you do it. Then you're going to filter the data and then create a runtime field. Okay, so let's start the same process again. So we can close this one down. To create a query, we click on create query wizard. Okay, make sure you're selecting fields from the tables. Okay, so we don't want to select the fields from the previous query unless they specifically ask us to do so. So the first field we need to select is first name and then last name. So it's going to be from this table here because we want in the information from all of the records. If you selected the query, we'd only basically find 36 records. We want to find all 298. Let's go to students, first name, last name, paid location. I think location might be the course, yeah. Weeks and room type. So this must be course. No. Rooms type. Weekly cost and price in order. So price is going to be the new field that we create, so that doesn't exist until we create it. So let's just check if we got the fields in the right order. First name, last name, paid. First name, last name, paid. Yeah. Location, weeks, room type, and the weekly cost, and the paid. And the price is the one we're going to create later on. So next. Again, when we get to this point here, because we want to link the query to the report, I always include the title now. And it just makes life easier when you're basically linking your query to the report. Finish. So again, we have 298 records since we selected the fields from the tables. Okay, so we've done that. Query 1, we've done query 2. I can highlight this as complete. I can highlight this as complete as well. I might have to refer back to this title later. So we've got two search criteria. So select only the records where the location is a man. So location, we want only a man. Okay, so here we go. So if we go to design view, underneath location, let's type in a man. Make sure you spell it right. Run. And we're down to 36 records again. But we have another search criteria. So this time paid is going to be no. So for paid, we go back to design view and we type in no. Click on run and we're down to 13 records. So location is a man and paid is no. Let's save the changes. Okay, and again, query is finished. Really straight. Actually, no, it's not. We've got one more thing to do. We need to make a new field. So basically, we're going to create a new field called price, which is calculated at runtime and is displayed as currency. This field will calculate the weekly cost. So you'll notice this is italic because this is a field multiplied by weeks. So if I go back to design view, actually you've got the two fields here. So we've got this field multiplied by this field here. So when you're writing out the formula, you're going to write out the name of the field followed by colon, and if you're using any fields, you need to place them in square brackets. Okay, so this is the first field multiplied by this field here. There's two ways of doing this. I'll show you two methods. So if you go back to design view, the first method is if you type in the name of the new field, which is price. Make sure you include a capital P. If you don't, you'll lose a mark. Followed by a colon. Okay, and then it's basically saying this will calculate the weekly cost. Since it's a field, we're going to put that into square brackets. So let me enter square brackets, weekly underscore cost. So you notice I put an underscore because it matches up with this field name here. I'll show you something in a moment if it doesn't match what would happen. So this is going to be multiplied by, see, that's not curly square bracket, it's a curly bracket. We want a square bracket by weeks, and obviously you need to include the S at the end. If I go to run, so you can see that's multiplied this together. So 7 multiplied by this value gives us this value here. We basically need to then format this into currency. So go to property sheet, format currency. Again, you can select 2 decimal places. By default it will be 2 decimal places anyway. That's that done. So that's one way of doing it. I'm going to show you another method of doing this as well. So let's just delete this. I'll go back to run. You can see it's not there anymore. If I go to builder, okay, and then basically what I'm going to do is double click weekly cost multiplied by weeks. Then if I click OK, actually I've made a mistake. You need to click in the right place, so we need to click here. So if you go again back to builders, weekly cost multiplied by weeks, it does the square brackets for you, and there's no chance of making a mistake. The only thing you need to do is before the bullet points is type the name of the new field, which is going to be called price. If you go to run again, it's done it for you. And I think since we did the formatting before, it stayed. Now let's say, for example, for weeks I just typed in, I didn't include the S, and if you click on run, it'd be like, what is week? It's not linking to any of these fields. Okay, so that's for that reason you need to make sure you spell it right, and maybe using a builder it may be a better way of doing it. If I take away that underscore, again it's trying to identify this field, it doesn't exist. So if you put that underscore back in, now it links back to the relevant fields. Okay, so that's that done. Save, and now we can create the report. So we go to create report wizard, and this is going to be a man course update. Okay, so you can select the right query, select the fields, and you can see price is now included since we've created that field. Now let's see the sort. Okay, so sort the weekly cost in descending order, change that to descending, and last name into ascending order. So we can leave that as it is. Next. Page, orientation is going to be portrait. Leave that as it is. It's going to be a tabular report again, so leave that as it is. This time you notice the title stayed, so I don't need to copy and paste it in again. So that's that done. Okay, so that's that done so far. Finished. Again, you can see some of the data is not showing, the labels are not showing, the fields are in the wrong order since we've done the sort. Okay, so we sorted by weekly cost, which is now appearing as the first field, and then the last name, which is now appearing as the second field. So if you close this, go to layout view, and if I press Control again, just going to make myself a bit of space to put the fields back in the right order. So it doesn't really matter now, I'm just squashing these fields because I can make space to put them back in the right order. So first name, last name. Okay, let's move that over here. Let's just put a last name in here. I know it's not shown in full. What comes after last name? Paid location. So weekly cost. Let me just move this all the way here. Got some more space now to work with. So that's shown first name, last name. Then I think it was paid and location. I'll double check in a moment. I think it was. I think we've got plenty of space, so we don't need to squeeze it all up together. So paid location, weeks and room type. And then these two things we can move towards the end. And obviously show the room type in full. We don't want to cut off any data. Weekly cost, price, done. Perfect, happy with that. So now what we have is the data is displays data and labels in full. Yep, we've done that now. Fits on a single page. Yep, we've done that now. Now what we need to do is calculate the total price and place this below the field price. So we need to add up the price field. So if you click here, so remember we're in layout view still. Again, if you click here, whoops, go to design, totals, we basically want to add up these values here. So we're going to sum net value, and this is the total value here at the bottom, which is being placed below the price field. Displays a label, total payments to collect, to the left of this value. So again, to add a label, we go to design view, design. This is the label option. Draw yourself a box. Okay, total payments. Make sure you include a capital T. And there we go. The label's to the left. So we've done that. And display your name, center number, and candidate number at the top right of the report. Okay, so since this is only one page, we can just include the name details in the report header. So again, we're going to just include a label. For the center number, I'll use 5678, candidate number 1234. Since we want it to be at the top right, I'm just going to resize this box. Okay, and before we print, what we want to do is check the title is correct, capital A, no spelling mistakes, your details on the top right, the fields are now in the right order, the data is not being cut off. Okay, the formatting is consistent, so we've got pound sign here, 2 decimal places, pound sign here, 2 decimal places, pound sign here, 2 decimal places. This is correct. Let's say, for example, this wasn't shown as currency. You can go to property sheet, format, and you can change it to currency here as well. Okay, so we've come to the end of the database section. This report is now ready to print, so you can go ahead and print this report. Okay, so that's the next printout. Again, when you receive your printout, make sure you check for any mistakes, the common mistakes. If you do spot a mistake, put your printout to one side and go ahead and print again. Okay, thank you for watching this video. Please like and share. Please show your support to the channel and subscribe below and drop your comments as well. Thank you for your time. Hopefully we'll be completing this paper in the next couple of days and also doing the rest of the 2019 videos very soon. Take care guys, thanks again.